Okay, so today's presentation and demo is how to create RESTful web services based on Jax-Rs jersey implementation from Glassfish using JRebel. So let me give you a little bit of concept introduction on the Jax-Rs, Java API for building RESTful web services. So let's start with the path annotation. So path annotation is basically providing the URL. So basically you create a Pojo class, Java class, and then you are going to annotate your class or method with a path annotation, and you can also specify the get, put, post, and delete annotations. So example is like this. So here, let's say I have a widgets resource class, and then I have a path widgets. That means I should be able to handle this URL, http://example.com and catalog, that's a context, and /widgets. Okay. Now, if I have, this is what is called the Uri template. If URI contains a slash and some number, that number could be captured as, in this case, ID with path param, like this. Okay. All right, moving forward. So this is basically what I just talked about. So let me actually move on with the path template, and then I'm going to give you a demonstration. So URI path template is basically a URIs with variables, as we have seen a few minutes ago. So here, in this case, when the URL has user/sanction, if I want to capture this value as a username, then you are going to have the variable in the form of this brace and username and the ending brace. Now, you want to use the value that was captured as username as a parameter in your method. In that case, you are going to use @path_param, and then you are going to use the same name as here, and then you are going to be able to use this username in your code. Okay, so basically, this sanction will be captured as username variable here, and then you can use it in your business logic. Pretty simple. And now, so that's path param. That is also what is called the query param. So path param is to capture the information that is from the URL as a path. Now, query param is to capture the query parameters. So the format of URL is like a question mark and the name of the query and the value of the query. Okay. So in this case, if I want to capture value 0, then you're going to use query param, annotation. So let's see example of query param. So yeah, so this is an example for path param. So in this case, I'm capturing the value as part of the URL, like a 1 to 3, in the form of path here as an ID, and then I'm going to use path param ID, and then I'm going to capture that ID in the form of long, which means the type conversion happens for you. Okay, so automatic type conversion is done for you, so you don't have to do the type conversion yourself. Okay. Now, if you want to capture query params, then suppose if I want to capture query param here, like a start equals 1, then I'm going to use query param annotation, and then I'm going to capture that value in the form of start. In this case, I'm capturing as an int. Then inside the code, I can use that start. Okay, and the expression could be a regular expression like this. It's pretty powerful. Okay. All right, so let's actually start the few demonstration. So I have a very simple Hello World application. So the way I create this Hello World application is from NetBeans. I'm actually using NetBeans and Glassfish 3.11. So you say new project, and you go to samples, and then you select Java Web Services. And this is a Hello World service that I just created. Okay? So since I created, and then what you want to do is, you want to do a couple of things. First of all, you have to create rebel.xml file. So you right click it and generate rebel.xml file, assuming you have installed the Rebel plugin, JRebel plugin for the NetBeans plugin, and you're going to create rebel.xml file at the root, okay? Which I've done that already. And one more thing you have to do is you are going to configure, again, right-click and properties. For compilation, you want to create the class file automatically. So you want to make sure that compile on save is set. Okay. However, you want to disable deploy on save. Okay. So what because you want JRebel agent to perform the automatic deployment rather than the container in this case. So you want to disable this guy, okay? And then you're going to run the application, which I'm running right now, okay, like this. All right. So let's see. So in this case, let's see the code. The code here is, let me just maximize it. Sorry. Maximize this guy. So here, this is the Hello World resource project class, and then it's the accessing. This is a path. Okay. So here I'm actually accessing path Hello World 2. So now if I want to say like 3, then of course I have a 4 error, right? Okay. So now here you're going to change 3, and again save it, and then you are refreshing it, and you are going to see the change. Okay, so just make sure that we are displaying the different value. Again, I'm going to change the value. So this is hello world 03, and then this get XML method will be actually used. Okay, so I'm going to just save it 3 to make sure I'm accessing the right method, and you are going to see that it's actually reflecting the change. Okay, the next one is so here I'm going to add another method. So here I'm going to another method. This time this method has XYZ as well. So let me just comment this guy. Okay, and save it. So here we have another method called the XYZ, and it's returning XYZ value. Okay, so I'm going to, in this case, go to 03, and now I'm going to say XYZ like this, and refresh it. Now you can see XYZ is now displaying. Okay, just make sure I'm not lying to you. I'm going to save this different value. Again, save it and refresh it, and you're going to see XYZ1 is now being displayed. Okay, so now you can see JRebel detects that there is a new method with a new path annotation is added to the code. The next one is produces. So I'm going to just change this one. So instead of creating HTML file, I'm going to create plain. Okay, so plain like this. Okay, and save it. Now if I refresh it, now the content that gets actually returned will be considered as a plain. So if I refresh it, it will just display HTML tags. Okay, like this, because it's not considered as the HTML. Okay, so you handle the change of produces annotation. The next one is let's see. Okay, so this is a path param which we talked about. So I'm going to uncomment this code. So in this case, it complains about this is not imported. So let's import this class. Okay, so now imported. So what it means is now is that I want to capture the value that was entered right after your Hello World 2 path as a username. Okay, and I want to use that username as this argument, and then I'm gonna just display this username. Okay, so let's save it, and this time we are going to type sanction. So here. And refresh. Okay, so you can see it's displaying this, the my name sanction. And if I want to type Daniel, then it should display Daniel. Okay, because it captures this value as variable, and then uses that variable argument username. So so I'm gonna just hello username is something like that, and you are going to see here refresh, and you're going to see hello username is Daniel. Okay, all right. So hopefully that makes sense. Question: will we have access to the recording? Yes, I'm gonna post it to Vimeo, so you should have an access to this recording without being a paying member of jpassion.com, because this is part of the JRebel course, and JRebel course is completely free. All right, next is, now we are going to use in this case, now we are going to use a query param. So this is the code So I'm going to uncomment, and again I'm going to import query param class. Okay. So now you see I'm using the query param as well. So I'm using path param as well as query param. So in this case, I want to pass the age of this person. So, you know, the notation, URL notation is going to be something like a /sanction question mark and age equal 22. Then it will be captured as age, and then I can display this age right here. Okay. So save it, and I'm going to Daniel is question age equals 11, something like that. Now you can see, refresh. Did I actually save the change? Hello to sanction question mark age 22 username. Yeah, okay, that should work. Okay, wait a minute. Age. Let me see. Hello 3. Okay, so let's see. I picked up user age and it should work. Okay, so let me just make sure that save it. And Daniel, refresh. Why it doesn't work? Let me try one more time. Pick up the but it didn't take username, and get something. Okay, so maybe this is incomplete. Yes, I'm going to just comment this guy's out and save and refresh. Okay, so that was the reason. So it was actually picking up this guy because I have using the same name. Get something. Okay, so you know this is actually using this one. So I just comment this out. Now I'm using the the same method but different parameters. So now this is actually picking up. So you can see is taking 22. Okay, so if I change to 45 or something like that, then you should display sanction is 45. If I say Daniel, and then we should actually display Daniel 45. Okay, so that works. So I'm gonna just comment this one out again. And the next one is sub-resource. So let me actually explain what the sub-resource is all about. Sub-resource locators. So sub-resource locator is a method. It is annotated with a path, but it's not annotated with a get or post. Okay? What it does is that it returns a sub-resource, which contains its own set of methods with a get and post. The reason sub-resource locators are useful is because it supports polymorphism, meaning it might return different subtypes depending on some business logic. So, for example, a sub-resource locator could return different subtypes depending on the role of the principal that was authenticated. Okay, so let's say an example. So in this case, instead of actually having instead of returning in this case, it's actually returning a sub-resource object. Sub-resource object is this guy, okay? And it does have its own set of getter and setter method. Now, the polymorphism is this. Because you are returning a sub-resource object, inside of it, you could actually come up with a different object. You could actually return different object depending on the business logic. So, for example, in the morning, you might want to create a different object. In the afternoon, you could actually return a different object depending on business logic. So this sub-resource is providing polymorphic, let's say, behavior for your RESTful services. Okay, so let's try that. So in this case, I'm going to uncomment these lines of code, control. Okay, so here I'm returning my resource object. Okay, Now, my resource object is something that I have created already, okay? For the sake of this demo, you can create right now. So my resource object is, basically is just my resource with null. So I'm going to just uncomment these 4 lines of code. So here it returns, it actually produces HTML with the get the XML2. So it will display hello from sub-resource. Okay, so I'm going to copy it. Now, if I go back here, the path is like a content. So I'm going to, in this case, say content like this, and refresh. Now you see, the message is coming from sub-resource. Okay, so just make sure I'm not lying to you. I'm going to say sub-resource XYZ. Okay, and again, save it. And here, if you refresh it, you can see it's picking up from a sub-resource object, like this, okay? So, the idea is this. So, you could actually you could have a my resource class or your resource class, and here, depending on the business logic, you might return my resource object or your resource object, okay? Or his resource object, okay? All right. Now, here you can obviously have your own path as well. So I am going to, in this case, uncomment this guy, Control 7. Now it has its own path annotation with the XYZ. So this is sub-resource 2. So save it. And now if I go to content and slash XYZ, then it should return value of resource 2. So if I change this value to resource XY2 ABC, something like that, save it, and you are going to refresh it, then you're going to see it's picking up from the sub-resource object. Okay? Alright, so that hopefully give you a sense of how things work. Now let me see, what else do I have? So I'm going to just comment this guy out again. The last one is Uri Info. So let me actually explain what the Uri Info is all about. Okay. You can certainly play around with the get, put, post, and things like that. So let me move on to, we talk about producers and consumers. Okay, let's move on to Uri resource class. Here we go. Okay. So in many cases, in URL, in many cases, your application wants to return the URI. Okay. So that's actually one of the characteristics of RESTful web services. Meaning, you are going to return the link of, for example, newly created an item, things like that. So what Jax-Rs API provides is a utility class called the Uri Builder and the Uri Info. So these are utility classes that you can use to create the URI real easy. Okay. So the logic is something like this. You're going to have a Uri Info as a context object, and then you are going to call get absolute path builder method, and then Uri Builder object, and then you can build a path. Okay. So it's it's a utility and convenience utility class or convenience class that help you to build URI. Okay, so if you have to return set up, for example, like a JSON, the items, and then you want to associate it, the URI for each of those, and this logic is basically using this Uri Info class as well as the Uri Builder class to create those URIs. Okay, so let's try to do that here. So I am going to uncomment this line of code, Control 7. Oops. Okay, here they go. And I'm going to import. This is correct. Okay, so if you see the example, I'm actually getting Uri Info object through dependency injection, through add context annotation, and then the path is Uri build. And basically, I'm using this Uri Info and call the get absolute path builder method so that I got Uri Builder, and then I'm going to create a path. Okay. So, and then, I create the URI path, and then I'm going to just return the URI. Okay, so maybe instead of XXX, I'm going to just say my favorite name, XYZ, something like that, and save it. So in this case, I'm going to call URI build. Okay, so here I'm going to URI build. Okay, now you can see it's returning the URL that I just created. Okay, all right. So that's all I have today. So let me see if I can address some questions. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I answered the question of Felipe in terms of access to the recording. Yes, so recording will be posted to Vimeo, and you can just search JRebel, and it will be loaded in, say, within 2 hours after this webinar. How the get XML2 is called in my resource class. Oh, okay, so if you take a look at the code, my resource, the name of the method doesn't matter. It's basically this path. So in this case, because I did not have any mapping, basically this is the same thing as calling this one, hello world 03. Okay, does that make sense? Right? Okay, so Srini, I hope I answered your question. All right. Is the Java performance webinars are free? You will be able to start the course? Well, the Java performance course I'm actually starting actually this week, last week, is not free, and you have to actually be a paying member. Okay. Any other questions?